Many predict that even a civil war may begin in the conditions that in Ukraine today there are so many nodes of contradictions. Weapons, people who will return from the front. 1,000,000 people, more than 1,000,000 people, will return from the front and say that they want to eat, but there is no work, no money, the economy is in ruins. The level of crime is already predicted to be increased. Many will defend justice as they understand justice. Whoever is rich is an enemy, and a person who has an apartment somewhere in Kiev will be considered rich. Perhaps regions and centers will sort things out amongst themselves. Then regional princes, regional elites will create their own armed formations, private military companies that will fight with each other, including regular troops. Confrontation is possible along a number of lines that have emerged today. Plus, Zelensky has already thrown into society the specter of religious wars. Excuse me, please, but there are several million believers in the Ukrainian Orthodox Church in Ukraine, which Zelensky tried to ban. And these are not some grandmas, grandpas, and old men who pray to Putin. No, it is many people who are fighting today at the front. It is many young people, representatives of the intelligentsia, and so on, who are believers in the Ukrainian Orthodox Church, which Zelensky is trying to ban today. Today, Zelensky is trying to intimidate the people with recruitment centers that catch people on the streets and send them to the front. Sometimes they will kill people on the streets in front of other people. Sometimes they beat them to death, and so on. That is what is happening today with the recruitment centers and around them. Many compare only with what happened during the Second World War, when police groups, the Schutzmannschaft, and other auxiliary police were created, which simply berated people. Now, there's not a single court decision regarding the illegal actions of representatives of these centers. Not even one, although there is a huge amount of material, practically every day here and there. These spontaneous actions arise, and in this regard, there are already explosions of indignation. Just the other day in Vinnytsia, a clash between ordinary citizens and the police and representatives of the recruitment centers began, who drove people into the stadium and accordingly tried to keep the mobilized people at the stadium, and ordinary citizens tried to fight them off. In many cities, in Kryvyi Rog, Zelensky's homeland, in Kharkov, in Kiev, in Rivne, and so on, attacks are being made on representatives of the recruitment centers, even the ombudsman. Today, the ombudsmen in Ukraine have already declared the inadmissibility of such actions. But Zelensky considers these representatives of the recruitment centers as his future guard. He understands perfectly well that they are connected to each other by blood guarantee, and accordingly, he understands perfectly well, and they understand that if Zelensky is not there, then accordingly they will be dealt with. They will start to lynch them. So much do the citizens hate these people. And Zelensky understands that they will serve him and become his actual guard. Just as Duvalier had Tonton Makutes in Haiti in his time. In Ukraine, many people say that the main problems facing Ukrainian society will arise later, after either a truce or peace is signed. There will be many who will be dissatisfied with any result. Even if Putin spoke tomorrow and said that we are leaving the territories, Crimea, Lugansk, Donetsk, take everything, there will be a large number of those who will say, why did we stop at the 1991 borders? Why are we not going further? Why is Chelyabinsk still not ours? Why is Kuban not annexed? Why is Khabarovsk still not ours? Why is Moscow not annexed? There will be some amount especially since if Ukraine loses territories, there will be those who will say what they fought for, why they didn't stop in 2022, how many lives would have been saved. They will ask Zelensky why they didn't sign the Istanbul agreements, which were softer, more beneficial for Ukraine than what is being proposed today. At least, those territories that are included in the constitution of the Russian Federation today were not included then. There was no talk of this then. Only autonomy was discussed. Yes, precisely, only about autonomy, and therefore revanchist sentiments are possible. Possibly radicalization of society. This is also being discussed today. Well, plus to everything, today my fellow experts, although still in a narrow circle, are already beginning to ask frankly whether Ukraine will face a Libyan scenario or a Somali scenario. Given the differences in the regions, the ambitions of regional elites, and other moments, and the lack of forces in the center to contain all these sentiments, it really doesn't look very good. What do you think is the main mistake of our American administration? What do they misunderstand? Firstly, there is a misunderstanding of Ukraine, of the internal processes of Ukraine. And Ukraine is very heterogeneous. Ukraine is not only Zelensky. Zelensky does not control all of Ukraine. By and large, this is the first. The second misunderstanding is that they perhaps understand Russia better in Washington. It has historically been the case that Russia has been studied more, Russia has been given more attention, and so on. The third misunderstanding is of the relationship, the specifics of the relationship between Ukraine and Russia, and the artificiality of the conflict that has been inflated since the 90s, or there since the 2000s between Ukraine and Russia, which eventually escalated into a war. Konstantin Petrovich, at the very beginning of Trump's second term, it was said repeatedly, and not only by Trump, but also by J.D. Vance, Rubio, and Witkoff, that the initial causes of the conflict must be removed. That is, Ukraine's non-aligned status, non-accession to NATO, non-presence of foreign troops, guarantees of the Russian language. What is the problem now? Because there are serious lobbying actions by Ukraine and its lobbyists, including the United States, aimed at removing all these issues from the agenda altogether. It is necessary to remove the issues, and in no case to abandon everything that has been done in the field of the fight against the Russian language in Ukraine, in no case to abandon neutrality, or rather the desire to join NATO, and so on and so forth. Although our fundamental document is the Declaration of State Sovereignty of Ukraine, not even the act of proclaiming independence, but the document that preceded the act to which the Act of Independence refers, the Declaration of State Sovereignty, adopted on July 16, 1990, which clearly states that Ukraine strives to be a neutral state. And accordingly, now we are abandoning this. Now we are abandoning it, and that is, abandoning the basic principles on which Ukraine was based, Ukrainian independence.